Why do you think you were able to, and talking about the practical crimes, why do you think you were able to get away with so successfully with it? Sounds like you did a lot of bank robberies and burglaries and those kind of things.
Oh, my days were numbered. Too many freaking video cameras nowadays.
So times changed.
Yeah. It was easy when all you had to worry about was fingerprints and witnesses and DNA. That stuff's all pretty easy.
Welcome back to the Top Notch Documentaries YouTube channel. In today's Israel Keys video, I'm going to be discussing the theme of technology and how technology brought Israel Keys' life of crime to a close. I'll also explain why his spree was destined to come to an eventual end because of technology. Hope you enjoy. Technology has become a major part of most people's lives today. Everyone has a phone and can access the internet with the touch of a screen. Israel was no different. At first, his upbringing had him cut off from the online world. Off the grid is the best way of describing it. But as he grew older, he drifted toward the online world. Encounters emerged with people claiming to have interacted with him on different chat rooms, one of these being a Yahoo chat room. The woman believed it to be a chatterbox for chat room. This took place in the year 2000. Another encounter had him chatting to a woman online and they met up for coffee in Squim. Having initially began communicating on the dating website Match.com, the woman was put off by Israel and didn't proceed with any more meetups. Israel's ex-girlfriend caught him chatting to women whilst playing spades online, and he also talked to women and most likely men on online gaming platforms. Israel had been using the internet and other forms of technology for many years. As you're likely aware, many people spoke up about having encountered Israel over the years. Technology has enabled people to share their stories and come together in a unified effort to piece together this case and all of the unanswered questions that come along with it. Cases are cracked because of the public after all. Without technology, Israel's timeline would have been much more challenging to have ever nailed down. But when you have encounters dotted across the United States and they all sound eerily similar, you know that you're onto something. Israel left no traces when it came to DNA evidence. He could put thousands of miles between him and a crime scene, yet when it came to his use of technology, he put himself directly in the line of fire for future law enforcement and internet detectives to one day figure out. Technology was the reason as to why he confessed to the Courier murders, for instance. This was because he had monitored their case on his computer. A trail had been left, as he was unable to stop himself from saving photos of them on his computer and leaving comments on news articles about their story. Israel's only known victims all vanished from residential or busy locations in the case of Samantha Koenig. He told the FBI that he had let earlier victims come to him. Remote areas not anywhere near to where he lived, but areas where people tended to visit. Lakes, national forests and cemeteries. These early areas had little to no signs of technology. No cameras to capture his crimes, or provide any insight into how someone could vanish into thin air. His later crimes all took place in areas where technology certainly existed, but it still wasn't as advanced as in major cities across the United States. The state of Texas had made Israel feel uneasy because of the amount of video cameras and security in general. As the audio at the start of the video mentioned, Israel knew that his days were numbered. Cameras are an excellent crime deterrent tool, but Israel wasn't all that deterred. Despite being caught because of security camera footage from banks, he would attempt to counter any identification attempts by wearing masks or disguises. This worked for a while, but technology eventually caught up with him. The modern world is flooded with cameras on most homes and streets. All of Israel's crimes that we know of were violent. His crimes include armed takeover bank robberies, abductions and ransoms, home invasions and burglaries. All of these are prioritised by law enforcement agencies because of their violent nature. Israel was probably right in his belief that his days were numbered. As everything moves online, including crime, not everyone can adapt to the new changes. Society is quickly becoming cashless, and therefore many crimes are going to become obsolete and much trickier to conduct as the years go on. A successful avoidance of detection also becomes trickier. Israel had been committing the same crimes since he was a young teenager. He had evolved over the years by moving toward technology, but was still trapped in only being able to commit these types of violent crimes. Israel's MO would be hit the hardest by technology, as he would need to book or have someone else book his flights and then rent a vehicle and travel across different states. All of these would leave digital footprints. To his credit, he wasn't on any law enforcement radar, but that isn't surprising. ANPR cameras were not in the locations where he committed crimes, or even frequented for what it sounds like. Therefore, his rental vehicle registered in his own name was never bound to surface. And video cameras weren't as common on houses as they are right now. Cameras solve many modern day crimes, and one slip up can get you spotted in a location and eventually tied into unsolved crimes. It's not surprising that Israel was intrigued by turn-of-the-century serial killers and enjoyed remote regions of the United States. He'd made the comment that everyone has cell phones now, much different to when he began committing crimes in the mid to late 1990s. Times were drastically changing, and he had to move smarter. That was the reason that he'd planned, and had wanted to shoot out a lone woman's tyres on a stretch of road in Alaska. No cell phone service, and no cameras. In conclusion, technology led to Israel being imprisoned. With a technological revolution on the horizon, Israel would have needed to move smarter and move away from certain crimes that are gradually becoming more and more extinct and not worth the time. Most small towns and cities are full of video cameras which monitor your every move, and even though he was clued into his phone use, those phone blackout periods became points of interest for the FBI. Israel was skilled when it came to his online use, but he was getting sloppier by the day. Victims were on his computer, and years of online activity presumably has the FBI slowly connecting dots and working behind the scenes to uncover more crimes. Internet speculation, online sleuthing, and sharing of encounters and possible sightings has really made all the difference with this case. As more information is shared, more patterns emerge, and more coincidences and similarities arise. Even with the rapid arrival and presence of technology, there's always a possibility that Israel may have never been caught. He hadn't been tied into his murders for years, and the investigation into the courier disappearance, for example, had police looking in a completely different direction. Was luck on Israel's side? Or was he as smart as everyone makes him out to be? Some killers have the ability to just slip through the cracks at the end of the day. This has been the Israel Keys video on how technology ended and would have inevitably ended Israel's crime spree. As always, thank you for watching.